The eerie tales of the black-eyed children have lingered for decades, leaving a trail of unease among those who encounter them or hear their unsettling stories. These figures are typically described as children, appearing between the ages of 6 and 16, with pale, almost ghostly skin and eyes that are entirely black, lacking any whites or pupils. They often appear out of nowhere, knocking on doors or approaching parked cars, asking for something as simple as a ride or to use a phone. Despite their polite, childlike requests, those who interact with them feel an overwhelming sense of fear, as though something is deeply wrong with these seemingly innocent children. The concept of ghosts and spirits of otherworldly light, as well as that of spirits, is even more recent. What makes these experiences even more disturbing is the strange aftermath many report. People who have encountered the black-eyed children often experience a wave of misfortune, unexplainable illness, or a persistent sensation that they are being watched. It's not just their blackened eyes or their unexpected presence that unsettles, but the eerie feeling of danger lurking beneath their harmless facades. Here, we explore real-life encounters with the black-eyed children, stories that will make you question whether these creatures are as innocent as they seem. In 2010, a woman in rural Pennsylvania had an unsettling late-night experience. One night around 11 p.m., she heard a knock on her door. When she looked outside, she saw two boys about 10 years old standing on her porch. They asked to use the phone to call their mother. Immediately, the woman felt an intense sense of fear and dread. The boys didn't make eye contact, and something about their presence felt wrong. Reluctantly, she told them she didn't have a phone and tried to shut the door. That's when one of the boys looked up, revealing his completely black eyes. Paralyzed with fear, she slammed the door shut and locked it. The boys continued to knock for several minutes, demanding to be let in. Eventually they left, but the woman never saw them walk away. When she peered outside, they had disappeared into the darkness. In January 2016, an elderly couple living in a remote area of Vermont experienced a terrifying encounter. One cold, snowy night, there was a knock at their door. Standing outside were two children, a boy and a girl, both looking down and asking to come in, saying they were lost and needed help. Feeling uneasy but sympathetic, the couple let them in. As the children warmed up inside, the wife noticed something disturbing. Their eyes were completely black. She suddenly felt an overwhelming sense of dread. Her husband, noticing the same, asked the kids to leave, but they continued to sit in silence. Moments later, the wife felt nauseous and developed severe nosebleeds. Just as she was about to faint, the power went out in the house. After a tense standoff, the children stood up and quietly left. The couple's health continued to decline after the encounter, and they reported multiple strange occurrences, including mysterious illnesses and a string of bad luck. They later learned that others had reported similar sightings in the area. In 2013, a man was working the night shift at a gas station in a small town. It was a quiet, rainy night when two children appeared outside the window. They stood motionless, staring in, waiting to be acknowledged. When the man finally approached the door, they asked to come in and use the phone. Immediately, he felt uneasy. He noticed that their clothes were outdated, and their skin appeared unnaturally pale. As the man got closer, he noticed their eyes, completely black, without any whites or pupils. The sense of danger was overwhelming. He refused to let them in, and they continued to stare at him, emotionless, through the glass. After several minutes of standing in the rain, the children turned and walked away, vanishing into the night. Shaken, the man searched the surrounding area but found no trace of them. He later learned that others in the area had reported similar encounters. These stories follow a chilling pattern: unsettling children with black eyes appearing out of nowhere, invoking a sense of fear and dread, and disappearing as mysteriously as they arrived. Brian Bethel, a respected journalist from Abilene, Texas, had an encounter that many attribute as the origin of the black-eyed children phenomenon. One night in 1996, he drove to a local movie theater to pay a bill. It was around 9:30 p.m., and the parking lot was dimly lit. He parked near the theater and began filling out a check in his car, illuminated by the glow of the theater marquee. As he was writing, there was a knock on the window of his car. Startled, he looked up to see two boys, around 9 to 12 years old, standing beside his driver's side door. Both boys were pale, with dark hair and old-fashioned clothes. The boys asked him for a ride to their mother's house, claiming they had forgotten their money to see the movie and needed a lift home. Bethel immediately felt an overwhelming sense of dread. The boys' mannerisms were odd, calm, but demanding. He noticed that something was wrong but couldn't place it. The older of the two continued talking, assuring him that they weren't dangerous and just needed help. He said, "It won't take long." At some point during the conversation, Bethel looked into the children's eyes. That's when he noticed they were entirely black. No whites, no pupils, just pitch black. The instant realization of their eyes jolted Bethel into full panic. Without a second thought, he refused their request, rolled up his window, and began to back out of the parking space. As he did, the older child's demeanor changed, and he began to bang on the window, insisting, "We can't come in unless you say it's okay. Let us in." Bethel sped off, his heart racing. When he glanced back in his rearview mirror, the boys were gone, vanished into the night. Shaken, Bethel wrote about the experience later, and over time, other people started to come forward with their own similar encounters with black-eyed children. In 2018, a police officer named Mark was on patrol in a quiet neighborhood in Ohio late one evening and encountered black-eyed child girl. Here is what he experienced.
So I saw this girl standing by the side of the road, and I pulled over because I thought I could help her. And she was just standing there, and I thought that was, I saw her eyes. They're black, completely black. I leaned forward and she attacked me. She attacked me. And there was this ungodly voice coming out of her. I had no idea how a human could make that voice, but I was trying to push her off of me, but she was trying to pull me out of the car. And then I broke her neck. I knew I did because I turned her head and I heard a crack. Her whole body shook. I could feel it through her chest. And then she went limp and she fell out of the car. She just stood up like nothing happened and she ran away. She turned to smile at me before she left. That was not human.
A woman checked into a quaint hotel in a small town. Here is what she saw in a hotel hall.
A woman from Michigan was traveling on vacation in Europe with a friend. One night she was in a hotel room in bed when suddenly she heard sobbing coming from the hall. For a while she listened, but it didn't stop. Getting out of bed, she walked to the door, opened it, and looked out. A short distance down the hall was a little girl wearing a white dress with her hair hanging down over her face. Concerned for the child, the woman left the room and walked toward her. As she approached, the girl raised her head and pushed the hair from her eyes. Staring up at her were two absolutely black holes where eyes should have been. Opening her mouth, the creature started giggling. Her teeth were like those of a vampire. Terrified, the woman rushed back to her room and locked the door. A few moments later, the knocking started.
One of the most creepy encounter. A man, deeply fascinated by the stories of black-eyed children, decided to test the unsettling legends for himself. After countless hours of studying alleged footage and theories, he became convinced that certain low-frequency sounds might be the key to summoning these mysterious beings. Determined to gather proof, he set up his laptop camera to record overnight, playing the suspected tone through his speakers, hoping to lure one of these creatures to his door. On the first few nights, the experiment yielded no results. The camera recorded nothing, and his motion-sensitive lights remained untriggered. But on the fourth night, something unexpected happened. As the low-frequency sound continued to play, the motion detector outside his house was activated, but there was still no sign of anyone on the footage. Frustrated but undeterred, he decided to continue. Then, On the fifth night, an unexpected and chilling event occurred. Around 2 a.m., a figure suddenly appeared on his front porch. The person stood perfectly still, staring through the windows into the dark house for over an hour. The investigator watched, stunned, as the figure made no movement other than an eerie, unblinking gaze. The figure finally disappeared, but as the investigator went outside to check the porch, he found something that unsettled him even more. The gate to his property was wide open. He lived in a secluded, hard-to-reach area, miles away from the nearest neighbor, making the appearance of an unknown visitor even more impossible. This strange occurrence left him terrified, as he couldn't shake the feeling that the black-eyed children might not just be a myth. Another chilling incident. A young Chinese-Canadian musician spending time by poolside and decided to record a light-hearted Instagram video. The two women chatted about their plans and joked around. However, after posting the video, her fans began commenting with strange observations. Some viewers pointed out a shadowy figure standing in the background across the pool, which seemed to stare directly at the two women. As the camera shifted, the figure mysteriously vanished, leaving only an eerie sense of unease. Several fans quickly theorized that the figure might have been a black-eyed child, one of the mysterious, sinister entities known for their jet-black eyes and unsettling presence. Disturbed by the comments, the women rewatched the video and was horrified by what she saw. The encounter left her feeling uneasy, as if something far more sinister had been lurking just beyond the camera's view, watching them from the shadows. Another incident occurred. The man had driven deep into the woods, taking the secluded trail that led to his home, his headlights cutting through the dark. As he navigated the narrow road, a sudden sound caught his attention. A rustling, almost like footsteps, but too deliberate to be natural. He stopped the car, his heart racing. The sound was unmistakable, coming from somewhere off the side of the road. For a moment he sat frozen in his seat, unsure of what to do. The woods around him were dense, the dark trees pressing in like silent watchers. Slowly he opened the car door, his breath coming out in visible puffs in the cold night air. The sound grew louder, closer. With a sense of dread creeping up his spine, he pulled out his phone and began recording, hoping to capture whatever was moving in the shadows. Through the lens of his camera, the world looked different, more sinister. He panned the screen nervously, searching the darkness. That's when he saw it. A figure, a child, standing motionless in the woods, its eyes eerily glowing black in the dim light. The figure was pale, gaunt, almost like it didn't belong there, and it stared directly at him, its expression unreadable. Fear gripped him. He felt a chill run down his spine, as if something was drawing nearer, something he shouldn't have seen, something that wasn't supposed to be in this world. Without thinking, he dropped his phone and sprinted back to the car, slamming the door shut behind him. His hands trembled as he started the engine, his mind racing with the terrifying image of those black, empty eyes. He sped away from the woods, heart pounding in his chest, the sound of the engine drowning out everything else. When he finally got home, he couldn't tell for sure. All he knew was that the children seemed to be hiding something. The haunting image of the black-eyed child staring at him through the lens of his camera, its eyes still burned into his memory, like a warning he couldn't ignore. Woods and dense forests provide an eerie and unsettling backdrop, which makes it no surprise that many individuals claim to have captured images of black-eyed children on trail cameras placed deep within the woods. These cameras, often set up to track wildlife in remote, secluded areas, are triggered to snap photos whenever they detect motion. One such image, shared online, depicts two deer in the frame, but they aren't alone. A small, ghostly figure dressed in a white gown is visible in the background, sparking widespread speculation that this is, in fact, a black-eyed child caught on camera. The chilling presence of the figure, standing still in the woods, only adds to the mystery of the phenomenon. This isn't an isolated occurrence. Other trail cameras, strategically placed in deep, dark corners of the forest, have allegedly captured similar sightings of black-eyed children wandering the woods, sometimes seen alone, moving silently through the shadows of nature's most remote and isolated areas. The idea of these strange, unnerving figures appearing so far from civilization only intensifies the fear and intrigue surrounding the sightings. While the black-eyed child phenomenon is most often associated with North America, reports of similar encounters have also surfaced across the Atlantic in the United Kingdom. In Yorkshire, England, there is another notable account of a black-eyed child sighting. In 2013, a woman named Hannah Butler snapped a photograph in the village of Hessel for Sherwood, and what she captured was something she believes to be a black-eyed girl. The haunting image, with its unsettling figure in the photo, has left Hannah with terrifying and persistent nightmares. She claims to be tormented by the memory of the eerie figure, which haunts her even now, years after the photo was taken. The reports of black-eyed children have been circulating since the early 90s, and as unsettling as they are, they continue to surface across various parts of the world. With the growing number of sightings and the chilling sense of dread they bring, it seems likely that these disturbing encounters will persist for many years to come, leaving a trail of unanswered questions and terrified witnesses in their wake. The mystery of the black-eyed children, it seems, is far from over. Mackie Albertson, a YouTuber known for her exploration of the strange and paranormal, recently shared an unsettling encounter with black-eyed children that she experienced firsthand.
I've been doing a series on my channel where I talk about the paranormal things that have happened to me, and so today what we're going to be talking about is my experience with the black-eyed children. We can start telling the real story now. It was in winter since it was snowing, so I'm guessing it was around, and I heard very quiet mumbling coming from somewhere. It sounded like kids mumbling outside, or I didn't even know where they were. So out of nowhere, I started to get this really weird feeling. I remember just getting scared for some reason, and I could feel my heart like pounding super hard, and I didn't know what was happening. I think, looking back now, I think it was a panic attack, but back then I just thought I was scared. There's something wrong. I don't know what it is. I don't want to be home alone right now. I went to call my parents, and it goes straight to voicemail, and that's when I remember we have no service at our cabin whatsoever.
Whether these stories are urban legend, supernatural phenomena, or a blend of both, they have captivated and unnerved countless individuals. The idea of black-eyed children appearing in the dead of night, knocking on doors, and pleading for entry plays on deep-rooted fears. It's a psychological storm of the familiar mixed with the unknown. Children, symbols of innocence and vulnerability, are turned into harbingers of something terrifyingly unnatural. Their soulless eyes, emotionless voices, and insistence on being let inside tap into primal fears of encountering the inexplicable and losing control over what we think is safe. Many wonder if these tales are rooted in reality, hallucinations, or collective folklore born from our subconscious fears. What is it about these figures that leaves those who meet them forever changed? Witnesses describe a dark presence that seems to linger even after the encounter is over, a sense of unease that makes it hard to shake the memory of their empty, all-black gaze. What's even more unsettling is the question of what happens if someone does let them in. Few accounts claim to know, and those that do speak of devastating consequences, physical illness, emotional torment, or even unexplainable tragedies. The terror of the black-eyed children lies not just in their unnatural appearance but in the questions they raise. Who, or what, are they? Are they lost spirits, otherworldly entities, or figments of overactive imaginations? Why do they seem to target people in isolated settings or under the cover of night? And most chillingly, why do they need permission to enter? These mysteries are what keep the stories alive, spreading whispers of encounters and speculations through communities and online forums. Ultimately, what makes the phenomenon so haunting is its ambiguity. We may never truly know the origins or nature of these black-eyed beings, but the impact they leave on those who encounter them is undeniable. Their presence plays on our deepest fears, reminding us that sometimes the most terrifying things are not what we can explain, but what we can't. Those who have looked into the soulless black eyes of these eerie children often describe an overwhelming sense of dread that feels almost primal. It's not just their soulless eyes that haunt, but the profound wrongness that surrounds them, Many report sleepless nights and a growing fear of hearing a knock at the door, as if the black-eyed children might return. These eerie encounters leave behind not just fear, but a lingering sense of being forever changed. If you like the content, please like, subscribe, and share the video with others. See you in the next video.